try and tape it for those that can't be here. We are gonna have the lights on and off, you won't be able to see the Enumore that well unless we turn it off. I just wanna really remind you that our focus tonight is to give you a lesson. So we can't talk about individual issues or concerns that you have about the device itself. That we could do, and I know some we have already via email, or if you need to actually make another appointment, but we really wanna honor your time tonight and give you that training. So I want to introduce to you our presenter, who's all the way from Madison, Wisconsin. Christy Newman has done the training for us now, 2 different sessions, and we're constantly on email between Christy and another support lady, Stacy, another teacher, which is one of the reasons why, and I'm not trying to like resell the LearnPad, but again, one of the reasons why we chose this device. We have support from actual educators, which has been honestly phenomenal. So Christy, thank you for coming and welcome, and I'm gonna let her give you a little bit more about herself.
So I'm not gonna give the main talker tonight. My name is Christy Newman and I work for Tierney Brothers as part of their PD team, but like she said, my background is as a teacher. I was a science teacher for 11 years, everything 7th through graduate level science, every science you can think of except physics, which doesn't bother me in the least, that's my least favorite. And I do have 3 boys at home, a high school freshman, a 5th grader, and a kindergartner, so I just honor what elementary school teachers can accomplish because I can't get my 5th grader to go through the living room without going over the couch. So the fact that they can get them all to sit in chairs is just a miracle to me. So Tierney does recruit teachers, and so my main focus in working with them is on the lesson building aspect of the LearnPad. I know there were some questions about the hardware, and so hopefully you had a chance to watch the screencast that I created on the hardware of the LearnPad. All of its buttons and ports and dots, pushes and whatnot. If you didn't, what I'm going to do with you tonight is this first category right here. So this is what's called a lesson on the LearnPad. So when she says lesson, this is lesson. But I always tell my teachers, and I guess now my parents, you shouldn't really get caught up in the vocabulary of this. I was not what I would have considered a lesson planner as a teacher. I was a unit planner, and so from day 1 until the test, I knew everything that we were going to do. So when I build for the LearnPad for my class, then it would be as a unit. The students can only have 1 lesson at a time, and that's what you got when you scan the QR key. And that's how your teachers have control of the LearnPads. And I just need to say the teachers here have done amazing things with the LearnPads. Having technology of any sort in schools, I go into dozens of schools every single year, has really just spiked this year. Every school that I go into has at least 1 new piece of technology, whether it's new computer labs or new sort of mobile devices, or the students are bringing in something. And I just can't tell you the amazing things your teachers have done here with these, because it is so new everywhere. There's not a whole lot of people you can call and say, what are you doing? Because everybody's just getting started. So the lessons your teachers are putting together are just wonderful. And having only 1 lesson at a time is what gives your teachers the control over what your students are seeing. So they don't just get everything everywhere on the internet, or they don't have the opportunity to wander around with that fun game app because it's on there all the time. They only get what they want them to have at any given moment. Now, whatever lesson was on your LearnPad when you got here, you are not going to be able to get back to that until your teachers give you the QR key for that lesson again, so you're stuck here. Which means you can take this home, and if you don't get a chance to explore everything we talk about tonight, you'll still have this on your LearnPad to be able to wander around and peek at.
If you stay up tonight, but tomorrow morning they'll get a new lesson.
You'll be out of luck.
It'll be going to lesson. Actually, you could take that QR code with you.
If you really wanted to.
I mean, so, and if anybody else doesn't get it that wants it, we can always email it to you even, which is another pretty cool thing.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll have everybody go ahead and tap on your first category, which is the LearnPad productivity category.
You want the lights off? You want them to see the Eno, or you're good right there?
Whatever you want to do.
Probably
So-
lights, Mary. We'll see if Janet.
Inside each lesson, you can have up to 6 categories. These are really, again, I tell teachers, don't get caught up in the vocabulary of this. For some teachers, it's subject areas. For me, it would have been subtopics for my unit. For some teachers, it's days of the week. However they want to organize that. These categories are really just folders for organizing what's in here we call resources that they're giving the students. And resources are files, so PDF, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, video files, any sort of downloadable file. They are websites, and your teachers control exactly where on the websites your students are going. So it might be all of CNN, go ahead and read all of the news, and it might just be just this one article, you are not allowed to go anywhere else. So they determine that when they build the websites for your students. And then apps. So what I wanted to focus on here in my first 15 minutes with you were some of the productivity apps that your teachers have chosen to use with your students. Just because you may not be familiar with these, I know that when I was in school we did not have these. So it's not something that we're always familiar with as things are changing so quickly. I also want to point out as we get started here that the first resource on there is a PowerPoint. If you did not have an opportunity to watch the video, that PowerPoint goes through the hardware of the LearnPad itself, so if you want to take a look at that in words and pictures as opposed to watching a video, it does describe the different buttons and ports on the LearnPad. So that's in there for you. Feel free to take a look at that. Okay, I'm going to open just a few of these productivity apps with you so you can see what they look like and how they work. That way if your students are running into something at home and you need to be able to help them with those, then you can. So the first productivity app that's used a lot is that Kingsoft Office. It's the one that looks like a W right here.
And you just tell it later.
Yep. So Kingsoft Office is the tablet version of Microsoft Office. So the buttons that you see in here are similar to the buttons and menu options that you would see on Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint. Not only can they open and view files, they are able to edit files if they have been downloaded. So this PowerPoint, if you wanted to, that's in here, since it's on yours, you could edit it and change it if you wanted to. That would change it only on your device, not on everybody else's. But this is where they can go to create a new file. So if they need to write a paragraph, they can access that from here. If you go ahead and hit New, you'll notice you have the option of opening a presentation, a memo, a document, or a spreadsheet. So there are all of your options. So if you hit New inside of Kingsoft Office, you have different options in there. So if your students need to create a Word document, a PowerPoint document, that can be done directly in here by opening up a new blank one. And then they can type on that document. And then when they do a file save as, it saves it directly to the LearnPad itself. So since your students are one-on-one, all of their work remains on theirs all the time. When they save it, it goes to their folders that are in their toolbox. And I know I'm probably saying things that are like, what? The students probably know where it is. And the teachers have told them where to save it. But this Kingsoft Office is their main office productivity tool. Again, they have access to Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. So they can create in here. It saves it directly to their LearnPad. They can always open it up later and continue to work on it, even if they don't have that lesson. So if they save their English essay, it is always in that folder for them to continue to work on. So they have access to those pieces that they've created and put onto their device.
And they're seeing a lot of things are saved right there in the Kingsoft.
Yep.
And yet they're also saved in My Documents. We're working on the saving thing. That's taking a little time. And then we're going to create some new folders. Plus we now have the ES
File Explorer?
Yeah, we're learning that.
Mm-hmm.
And some things are saved as screenshots
Mm-hmm.
versus going through the steps of saving it in documents. Just
Because they got the screenshot down pat.
Yes.
They love
So,
that.
Oh my gosh,
Try to tackle one thing at a time.
The saving
yeah.
is several more steps and you
Yes.
really have to listen. That's harder.
Yep. Okay, so I've gone back to the main screen of the category. So in order to get there, you would just, you can either hit the back arrow at the bottom of your screen there, or you can hit the home button right in the middle and go back into our LearnPad productivity category. Either one. That back button will get you back through your steps, but only as far as the home screen of the current lesson. That is not the way back to the funner lesson they had yesterday. Next one, Adobe Reader. Your teachers here are using Adobe Reader as the default PDF reader. When a PDF is part of a lesson, it opens up directly in Adobe Reader, and the students have access to all of the tools that are part of Adobe Reader. They can write right on the document. They can save the document, and if you include Adobe Reader like we did right here, they have access to all the PDF files that they have been working with on their device. So this is kind of their PDF folder where they keep all of the PDFs that they've had access to. I have put a PDF document in there in your category that explains how to save in a PDF. Like she said, they're working on saving. So you're welcome to peruse that later. So those are going to be their main file, your typical office production tools. For what?
For what you're talking about. I mean, I'm just saying, to explain. Some of them, maybe we're just sitting here pushing buttons while you're talking.
How to use what? Like the Adobe Reader?
Yes.
All you have to do if you wanted to access one of those files would be to tap on it.
Okay, and we would tap on this because this is their homework, or we would tap on this because?
Right now, we're just showing you the tools
Yep.
they have. Anything, and so far, between both Ms. Fidelia and I, homework-wise, the only thing we've had on here is like playing games. They haven't had to complete any type of essay or any type of actual writing, and we're not there with them yet. They've typed here in class, and we've done screenshots and saves, so probably the only way they'd be needing it at home would be to study from it. I know particularly in science, sometimes the graphic organizers they take a picture of it and then save it. So this would be a way to get back to it. I wanna say that your child will know.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
really,
say you have a little
your
fourth grade
child
manual
will
at
know.
home.
Okay, alright.
My kids are so much faster with new pieces of technology. They're just
Cause there
Yeah,
wouldn't
I know,
be,
yeah.
there wouldn't be a manual for each of these. Picture this like your computer, that, you know, you could Google and find a whole manual on Adobe, but then you're gonna read all
don't
kinds
do
of
that.
things you don't need to know. You could Google and probably find some things on Kingsoft.
Oh,
'cause
sure.
It is out of England, but it is a basic Word program. But you know, when you get anything for your computer, for every little thing you get, you look at that manual, do you read it? Do you really read it? I mean, you might fiddle around and try and figure something out on it, but again, if there's a particular problem or issue, send us an email. And if we don't know, we send an email.
Okay, so some of the other tools that your students have been using. The next one that I have on there is Edmodo, and I've included an article, 7 reasons to use Edmodo. Edmodo is a really popular classroom management online system. Edmodo allows teachers to distribute work, it allows them to collect work, it allows them to send out comments and have discussions with students, be able to give comments back to the teacher and also to each other, so it creates that online virtual communication space. Edmodo also does have some assessment tools for the students, so teacher can get immediate feedback, or students can vote, or they can respond to a question, or any of that stuff that you might have typically done, pencil and paper in class, can now continue online for the students. Edmodo's been around for several years, actually also an Edmodo certified trainer. The features in Edmodo make it very, very user friendly. It's designed to look and act like Facebook so that it's something very familiar, even down to the blue and white color scheme is designed to look a lot like Facebook. The posts pop up and look a lot like Facebook. So when your student signs into Edmodo, and if you see them in Edmodo, it should be something that looks pretty familiar to you. As far as how all of those tools exactly work, again, it depends on how you're using it in the class. There's a ton of options on Edmodo. your teachers probably aren't going to use all of them. Unless you're doing an entirely virtual classroom, you probably won't use everything that's on Edmodo. But feel free to take a peek at that article tonight if you want to, how and why teachers are using it, and how and why students are enjoying that. But your student has a password, a login and password to Edmodo. Chances are you signed up for the parent side of it, because you can track your student stuff on Edmodo. But if you want to kind of explore what they're doing there with their teachers, go ahead and have them log in for you so you can see that student side with them. Okay, up next is Soccerdiv. So I've also included an article, what is Soccerdiv, so that you have some idea. And then again, it's one that has a login for the students. It's another online classroom management system. It's very similar to Edmodo. There are different features. The students can take assessments, the teachers get the results right away. It really helps with feedback faster for your students, and I know when I was a teacher, one of the things before we had all of this stuff that you would really struggle with is getting everything back in a timely fashion to the students for it to be useful to them. So these online management systems are making a big difference. Again, if you want to see what Soccerdiv really does, have your students log in for you, take a peek at it, see what it is that they're doing on there, have them talk to you about it. Class Dojo. Your student's favorite thing about Class Dojo, probably, to be honest with you, is making their little avatar guy. Kids get such a kick out of that. So that little ninja green guy is the Class Dojo guy, but your students each get to make their own little avatar person, and they probably spent more time on that than actually worrying about what Class Dojo does, to be honest with you. But it's just another online productivity tool that your students can use. Pearson SuccessNet, that's your textbook, yes?
Social studies.
That's what I thought, just making sure.
They're having it's a slow load, like all of them are having a hard time loading.
And the bigger the things are, the longer it'll, just like at home. You go to download an app and it's a big app, it just takes forever. So, and then Read Theory is another online, that one obviously for reading. But that's something that I think you guys are just getting into. So we had built that together. Anytime they're working with a new website, especially ones that have logins, you'll never notice it on your computer, but logins are really a complicated series of steps sometimes that you don't ever notice because they're all blank pages. So when we build these websites for the students, every single place that they're going on that website, even the blank pages, is monitored by the LearnPad. And so Stacy and I help whenever they need anything with those, wake up, any of those websites. And then we have the camera and the gallery. So the camera is what the students can use to take pictures and or video, which they probably do with shocking regularity. Yeah.
I'm just curious, with the loading time that we're experiencing, is this what the kids experience during the day when they go onto these?
It depends. I mean, it really does depend. It depends on where we're at and what we're going to. Right now, what we have going on, and we and Mrs. Davina as well, Ms. Fidelli and I and Mrs. Davina have figured out that right now we've got a mix of class LearnPads in here. We never do that. So we anticipated we might have a harder time with this because my homeroom class, when they come in the morning, they don't open their LearnPads and stay with me. They go to math and they go to science. So they scan out of my organization and into Ms. Fidelli's. We only have 27 LearnPads then in the organization. Right now I have most of her class and all of my class because we didn't want you to have to scan into the organization. So we left you for tonight, and that's gonna slow things down.
So
You know
the
what I'm
simple
saying?
answer is no.
No,
Yeah, well, the simple answer is on a regular basis, no,
No.
sometimes
Okay.
yes. I mean,
Okay.
did any of you have computer issues, whether you were at work or at home today? Any kind of computer slowness, any kind of?
Yes.
My Wi-Fi crashed yesterday for no apparent reason.
Well, and now they're saying there's these sunspots, it was on the news, and that could be affecting some of our technology. We had to reboot things today, I mean, I don't know.
And I will say, like, if I'm gonna use YouTube, YouTube is a site that clogs up, so to speak, a lot faster than others. So I will try not to send a YouTube video to them to watch all at the same time, because it just doesn't work well. So I'll just show them from the Eno board instead, and then if they wanna watch it at home, they have the access to do so.
Makes sense.
And same,
YouTube
I can
does
honestly
clog
say Scholastic News, we have the hard copy magazine, we also have the digital magazine. That's another site, it's a whole magazine, it's a lot to load, it's got a lot of graphics, it's got, links to different video files. It takes a long time, we use both. And then sometimes we have great result, we get everybody on, cause there's a game they can play, which they want, so yay. Other times it's half and half. Half of you, let's do this with the magazine, the other half, go ahead, get yours on and do your game. Now the other half can have their turn, so it does depend.
And plus also realize that not only are we learning about this device, but also this device, how it works within our whole network, our infrastructure within here. So it's a whole new learning process, not just one thing, but the whole environment.
We're learning a lot.
Yes, and we have learned a real lot. And but it's going to be, a continuous learning process.
Yes, schools everywhere going through that this year, just everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, so you lost me at Pearson.
Okay.
Success Net.
That's their
You
social
said that's
studies.
for social studies. So I logged on here. It says register here, new users,
Your
returning
students would have a
users.
login.
Okay, so she has her own login. Is that in
Yep.
her planner?
Yep,
Okay.
and all she has to do is log in, you don't have to register every time, she would just
So
log
she
in.
logs in, and then on that would be,
The online book,
Yep.
the social
Online
studies book.
resources, yep.
oh, the social studies.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of these, we're not going into each one of them because these all involve your students having logins and they have them. And if you want to see them, take this home tonight and be like, where's your logins? And feel free to wander around, just don't delete any of their stuff or take any of their quizzes or anything like that. Yeah.
Is the social studies the only book online, or are there other?
Right now, it is the only book online,
Math
with
is-
the
is it
exception of math,
math?
math and there, I'm not exactly sure how all the math is working, I think the topics have to be assigned,
I think so.
right? They're not open until
I
they're assigned.
believe they have to be assigned.
Most online textbooks, not just this one, but in general, have some sort of subscription fee associated with them. So a lot of schools are only going online textbooks sort of one at a time because it is an expense like purchasing textbooks. So most schools don't have all of their textbooks online. This is pretty typical.
And right now, that's the only one that's been available to
Yeah.
us, and we've had that for a few years now. It's a nice feature for when, the kids forget their book, or if they're short reading, and really in fourth grade, they're never having to read like a whole chapter. I mean, it's gonna be maximum 4 or 5 pages to a lesson, and we'll have done that in school. It's never, cause I'm a social studies teacher, so I can tell you, never will I assign that, just go home and read that lesson and be ready tomorrow. We do it in bits and pieces. There's a lot of information, and we have to pick out what we have to know.
So the book is or isn't online?
The social
studies book
yes.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
math is not.
Yeah. Other questions that I can answer, because I want to give them the opportunity to move into the lesson. Okay, they have my email, so if you email them and it's a question they can't answer about the hardware, any of these tools or how they're built or anything like that, they will forward that to me so that I can get back to you. We are always available. I have been known to email people at the oddest hours. I won't get home till 11 tonight and I'll probably hop on email. So if you ever have a question, they'll send it to me if they can't answer it. And your lesson is up next.
And we do the same kind of thing with the board with the kids as well, so that way you know.
This way they can see exactly what I'm clicking on and I can show them exactly what I'm doing, which is really helpful. Which will lead into one of the main things I do in science with them. I'll tell them, okay, click on the science app, and they'll know, click on the science app. Sometimes it's a science picture, sometimes it's science, whatever it is. One of the things that I like to do is save paper, and they know that. But I'll put our graphic organizers for either the lesson or the chapter. I'll save it as a PDF file and put it on their LearnPad for them, so that they can refer back to it at any given point when it's at home. So they know at this point, chapter 1 life process is the graphic organizer. So if you open that, it'll show the graphic organizer for chapter 1 lesson 1 that we just worked on the other day. And chances are it's blank, but we actually completed it in class the other day, and when we complete it, I have them take a screenshot of it. And right now your device is sitting like this, so you only get half of the organizer. but I've kind of trained them and programmed to when we're done with it, if you turn it this way, it'll auto rotate. So they can take a screenshot of the whole thing, and they can go back to it and study it, and then the picture is saved in their photo gallery. The photo gallery, taking a screenshot, is a lot faster than the 12 steps to save it to our documents and so on. And the reason I have them take a screenshot of it, sometimes when they close out of it right away and they open it back up, it'll say the document was saved. But when they reboot the device, that document is not saved unless you've gone through the 12 steps. Way to disrupt class.
So if you're,
They can also type in.
but anyway,
also
so
there's a
if
possibility
your
that they could
child
take
has to get a substance.
Well, that's the screenshot, the child
There's
did,
something
yep.
wrong with theirs.
You do have.
Is all of their stuff then saved
No,
on the
no.
substation? So
It's like if they take a screenshot on a loaner device, it's saved on there, so when they get the new one, it's not there. And what I've been doing for those students who've run into that is I've gone ahead and retyped on the graphic organizer for them and saved it on their new device for them, so that they don't have to go back and try to do it on their own or whatnot. And I'll show you on my device, and it might be on those of you who student is in my homeroom. If you go to the toolbox and open your gallery, and I apologize if I go too fast. The toolbox is the little,
it looks like a briefcase. Looks like a little briefcase with the tools in it.
There's that in the gallery. Some of them took a picture of my example so that they could take it home to do theirs.
Oh, yeah.
But in my gallery, I have a bunch of screenshots, and one of them is our graphic organizer that we used for nouns the other day. So, like, I had a couple of kids who used a loaner tablet, a loaner device. And when they got their new one, obviously their screenshots were not on the new one. So I went ahead and retyped it for them and took screenshots of it so that they didn't have to go back and do it by themselves. But they still do it even if it's on the loaner one. And I just speed up the process and do it on their new one if they, for whatever reason, get a new device.
So how do I get to that, or did Lauren just not take that?
Well, this was in my homeroom for English, which wasn't what I
Oh, that's-
anticipated going to, but,
Don't get me crazy.
I know.
Well,
We got a mixed group, like, we got the old fashioned and now
Thank you.
we haven't even gotten yet.
And honestly, Ms. Toth, I tried this to see how well this would go and to see how many of them would actually, when I say study your notes for English, would actually go to their device and study their notes for English.
Okay.
But then I did have them fill out a hard copy anyway, after so they have both.
No.
We did it together. Right, we did it together in homeroom, but if someone had, like Madeline has a loaner device right now. So when she gets her new device is not gonna have these screenshots. So I would go and quickly type it in there for her so that she would have it if she needed to
So
study.
it takes screenshots of the screenshots. You can do that.
If you go back to the home screen, which looks like this, I'm gonna totally switch gears on you. But if you go back to the home screen, as I hear noisy people in the hallway.
Maybe this is what
That, the screencast,
yeah, like what do I push if I want to?
If you open that sign tab,
that bottom middle that looks
the
like.
one thing I wanna show you that the
No,
kids
I
are
know.
totally loving right now and I found to be rather exciting. There's an app in here called iCell, and maybe they've shown you this and maybe they have not, but if you click on iCell, and it'll take a minute to load, but it will do. It'll show you an animal cell, a plant cell, and a bacteria cell, which I found to be really cool. So I'm gonna click on the animal cell, and what they can do is they can rotate the cell around. It's a 3D version of it, okay? And if they tap on part of the cell, so if I tap on like the nucleus, it will zoom in on it.
Oh,
And
that's
if you
cool.
notice in the bottom corner,
Yeah, that's awesome.
it gives you 3 options: basic,
She doesn't need a
intermediate, or
microscope.
advanced. So it'll change the terminology explaining that part of the cell.
They can have this for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Exactly. So it, they got the greatest kick out of like playing with it and trying to read some of these big words that they've never seen.
Where are the
Good.
words?
Once you tap on, sorry. Well, it should. Let's click there. Part of the cell.
That is cool.
Something new, they're just amazing.
So I was like a little kid in a candy shop when I found this, because I was like, this is so cool. I couldn't wait to show them, because I was playing around with it for like 20 minutes, and then they were hooked, and I let it go and just let them have the freedom to play around with it and check it out. So that was one of the cool things. That is one thing about the LearnPad that I really, there's a lot of things I do like, but some of the resources that are available to the LearnPad software is really incredible. That's free.
That we're not
I mean,
having to buy through.
It's really incredible. It's far more beneficial than their textbook, and they love it. There was a lot of stuff that we used from our last unit on like natural resources and stuff that they found. They were hooked. So it is helpful. But I do try to use a lot of graphic organizers on there, and at least with our last chapter, I was giving them like critical thinking questions, and I was saving it as a PDF file, and they would have to fill in their answers and take screenshots of it, and then we would go back and discuss it. So it's not just looking at pictures and all that stuff. I do make them do some other work on there. I try not to have them. Some of them I was trying to have them hand-in work, which maybe they've explained to you what that is, and maybe they haven't, but sometimes it doesn't always come through. So having them take a screenshot of it and then going back to it worked far better. But they seem to enjoy doing that, and especially if like they turn their device this way, it's a full sheet of paper, they can get the whole thing in there rather than taking 2 or 3 shots of one page. And they've learned to do that. So they sometimes teach me stuff on here that I didn't figure out yet.
So if there's something that can help them study for a test that's gonna be on here, besides them telling us that, is there any way that that's communicated to us? Because I'm probably not gonna get that.
I can put it on the homework page, and I do.
That's the reality of it.
No, I can put that on the homework page. I could say, study English notes, they're on the LearnPad.
That would be fantastic.
Okay. And I do, and I've told this to the kids, I usually make my lesson for like the week, and it'll say October 27th to the 31st, and I will put the QR code on the homework page for them, so that if for whatever reason they can't access something, because sometimes if they don't use the LearnPad for a couple hours, it just needs to be revived and they need to rescan the code. I put it on the homework page so they can scan it again, and then they should be able to get to whatever they need to. So yeah, I can do that,
That would be
it's on the
helpful.
LearnPad or whatever, this way then you guys know too.
I have one quick question. If we have an issue with the LearnPad and we have Wi-Fi at the house, real quick, do we have to we're having to rescan the code that we were given in the very beginning of the year, and shouldn't you only have to do that one time?
And the code, you mean for your Wi-Fi at home?
Yeah, it
It's
looks
your
like
Wi-Fi code. Yeah, you shouldn't have to keep
Yeah, you
doing
should
that.
not have
Once is enough. We'll have to peek at that.
When you say homework page, you're talking about that thing that user.
Right. Well, and on the school website. Like, I take a picture of our homework board and I put it up there, but I can add notes to it and say, the English notes are on the LearnPad. I can add that to that,
Is that in the LearnPad or in their planner?
in the LearnPad.
On the deadline,
Or you're saying that's on the school website?
Well, it's on the school website, like, I can type on the school website, the English notes are on their LearnPad. And those notes would be in their photo gallery, where they've saved them. And I can show you where Johnny's probably are.
I'm looking like I don't know what you're talking about.
I can show you where they're at on there. Right, that was something we made in class. That was something we made in class. However, their vocab is on here. If you go in the science app, there is a part that says chapter 1 vocab. And I put the vocabulary words and the definitions there. So not only did we make vocab notes as a hard copy, it's there, the textbook.
That's why this is, I did not know this was on here.
Yes, in the science app, there's an app in there that says chapter 1 vocab. We might not have this right Alright, and I just wanna show you one last thing that'll be beneficial to science, social studies, reading, whatever subject uses vocabulary, which is all of them. If you're in the science app here, there's an app called Trading Cards. And for the most part, they know how to use this. Okay. And essentially what this is it's a site where they can make flashcards for their vocabulary. Okay, so if you're in there, you know, maybe they have their name in there already, and if you click on their name and click next, it'll go to a screen that looks similar to this. Okay, and if you hit create new card, a screen like this will pop up. And I've kind of trained them to use this for vocabulary. So let's say they were gonna, one of their science vocab words last chapter was pollution. So if I type pollution in there, you have these objects, so to speak, to pick from. Now I've told them fictional, real, some of those don't really apply to science vocabulary. So they can either pick the object one here or this one that's smooshed at the end, which honestly, I don't know what it says, cause.
Kinda looks like a calendar.
Yeah.
It does.
It kinda does look like a calendar, but if you pick one of the last two, it's fine.
Yes.
Doesn't really matter. So when you click on it, it gives them a card, and it gives them a spot to type the definition, so they can type a definition. Now down here it says like senses and location and function. Obviously some of that will not apply to the science vocabulary. But if it was pollution, they could put their definition of pollution, and then they maybe can give examples of what causes pollution, if they want to. And then, you know, this gives them an option to change the design, and of course they wanna change everything, so. They'll pick a different color, they'll change it, whatever. And then at the bottom of it, it'll say keep it. And you can keep it, so next time they open it, it's just another place for them to practice writing and reading their vocabulary. So sometimes I give them class time to do it, sometimes they'll do it on their own. I give them class time today to do it, and someone was like, well, I did it already at home. I was like, alright, well, good job.
And they're getting these definitions from like the glossary of a textbook, or can they query this device to get that definition to print?
From the textbook. Originally, we had done it on note cards in class first. This was used as a reinforcement for them.
Okay. So you can't really query and then copy and paste.
No. However, if you go to Trading Cards, the website on your computer, it's completely formatted different, and they can add pictures into it from there. You can't do it from this particular app.
But on our desktops.
On your
at home.
desktop
Okay.
you could. And then from home, they could print them out, and they can color it and fancy and do whatever they want with them.
Okay.
So I essentially showed them this to give them another place and another resource to practice their vocab. And I've told them, you don't have to do it just for science, they can do it for social studies, they can do it for reading, they can do it for math. So just so you're aware of this, and some of them have taken it upon themselves to use this for other things.
And this is gonna sound really bad, but where do we find the vocabulary list if we're not?
I have the vocabulary list on
in
the
this?
CJB website, and they have note cards in their organizer, and it's in their textbook.
And that changes how often?
With
The
every
vocabulary
chapter.
list. Okay, and when you say they're on the CJB website, they're on your teacher page?
On the
under
science teacher
In
pages.
Edline,
Would you guys can access the webpage through Edline, right? Is that how that works?
Yes.
I think
So it's on
But
the
it would be
science
the
page.
home, it would be science, so there's a science
CJB.
page for everyone.
And I actually showed the class this the other day.
Well, no, this is crucial. Only ever, so that's what I'm
Or the textbook.
I think on the website.
And then I think a lot of us use nothing. Provide another way for them to practice and then paper pencil.
I don't know, but I'm sure we're
Right.
the only people who don't know this. I bet you nobody in Connor's
Well, I have them here note cards in class so I can actually see them do it, so that we can If we do this, I give them class sometimes.
Do you know that?
Just this way, if
they get stuck together with it. It sounds like used to do like Okay, I'm watching the time, and I know, I can sense that you all need a brain break, but we can't, because we don't have time for one, so. And I do this a lot with the kids too, so just, you know, give yourself a little stretch if you need to, take a couple deep breaths. I wanna show you, kinda quickly too, social studies, and I know we could go on, and I'm even as a bystander here, picturing myself as a parent, like even 15 years ago, freaking out, because there is so much. And I know this is gonna sound harsh, but I'm old enough now. Relax, because most of it you don't have to know. Your kids have to know it. So it would be great if they could show it to you. And I get that. If they can't show it to you and you start getting concerned, you should send us an email. If we have to have a little private after school thing, we could. But they're the ones that really need to be running this LearnPad. Not to say that you can't play on it and be aware of it. That's great, but most of this you're not going to know well enough because you're not using it every day. We really are using it every day, and since I have all of the kids for social studies, I thought I would take you to the social studies, although now I'm just going to use Elizabeth's LearnPad because she's in here. So I'm just going to use yours because you're in here instead of having to make that switch. So go ahead and tap on economics for kids, because that's where our new unit is. Finished up government. If you missed the government stuff, it's okay. It's done. It's over. Not to say we're just having a conversation. They won't be tested on that ever again. They'll see government every year from here on out. And probably a little bit in the Terra Nova test, which is in March. So we'll try and do a quick little review. And with the, it's a big enough election, especially here in Illinois, with the election coming up. We don't talk specific candidates. They're watching the TV, because I'll tell you, they have opinions. And I try to, they can voice their opinions. I don't voice them, other than I have said, you know, the candidates, in my belief is, they should only be able to talk about themselves. Not about anybody else, just about themselves. And then we would not hear anything bad. Nothing. It would all be good. But okay, back to economics. See, I do digress. Quizlet is another vocabulary app. It's a web page as well. It is free. It is pretty cool. I have created the cards for the kids right now because they would have to have an account, which would require an email, which we're not going there yet. Eventually, I do think your kids will be doing this. Some of the students knew Quizlet before I showed it to them. Some of the parents have had their children register and are making their own flashcards. I do this for social studies so that they can play different games. I've shown this to them on the Eno board now, you know, definitely these 2 units for sure, where the flashcards even are pretty cool because you have a choice. You could do the hard way, which I say to them is just the term and now you've got to give the definition, or you could be practicing with both sides, the definition and the word and the definition. Oh, you're not seeing it there yet, but it's coming, maybe. It was there and then I clicked again. And then the easier way, which is nice to start with the definition, and then you've got to come up with the word. And there are different games on here, so I'm not even going to take you through all of that. I'll let your children do that because they do seem to enjoy the game playing. There's spelling practice on here for the vocabulary as well. There's a little practice test. There's a game called Scatter and Space Race. But I'm going to take you back. For the children who really aren't like enjoying the flashcard thing, I also have the hard copy, just a copy of the definitions with the words, and they have to illustrate them. And again, for some of the kids, the picture makes all the difference. They get a picture in their mind, they see the picture clue, and it kind of gives them a hint as to the definition. Other kids tell me the pictures don't do a thing for them because everybody does learn differently. The economics glossary that's on here is big, it's huge, and this would be a nice way for me to differentiate for the kids who really get into this, that are probably someday going to be our economists. And it actually does give way more definitions than I will ever touch.
Oh, boy.
Way more than I'll ever touch. And then if you go to the middle app there, Wise Pockets, we're all liking this one. And there is a game on here for parents. So if you do get into this, we don't have time tonight for you to play it here, but if you go home and you really want to mess with this,
You're gonna be up late tonight.
Christy, now and then it doesn't want to come back for me. Like I click on this, and I go to show it. Hit the radar button. The radar button.
Just for you, Chris.
Radar, where's that? The first one.
I'm playing you.
Bam.
Yeah, what's your
This one right
screen
Star
name?
Wars.
So if you're on Wise Pockets, I see every time there's something else. Why is it not showing me here? Oh, there you go. Yeah, see, I want it as fast as you want it and as fast as the kids want it too. I'm like, come on, where is it? What's it waiting for? This is really cool and it's got a lot of different stories. We're really trying to do economics on a 9-year-old level, which is great because they are very interested and it's a good age to get them interested in just the whole idea of it does make a difference when you come to purchasing, buying something, and you have choices to make, and it makes a difference how much you pay. They all tell me they are very good at saving money. They're all very good consumers. They all do love to buy things, but they also love to save. So we're doing it through stories, and today our story was potatoes. We went back and talked about the Depression because 85-year anniversary was yesterday. We've done, and you saw it in the Kingsoft, we've done the Crow in the Pitcher, and then we've also done Ants and the Grasshopper. Next week we've got One Hen, so that they are getting the general concepts. The big thing is vocabulary at 4th grade at both the science and the social studies level, because we're building it for later learning. But great stories in here as well. And at first when I saw it, I thought, oh, maybe it's too babyish, but when you begin to read, it's really not, and they do like it. And then if you go ahead back one more, you'll see that's where we have an economics PowerPoint, which this one is just another good overview of the concepts. And the PowerPoint takes a little bit longer to load too. The kids get a little anxious, you know, but they can view it just the full screen PowerPoint. And it's a nice review. We did it in class as well. So they've seen this on the Eno board, not on their own individual, you know, when we were viewing it for the first time. But it's another good review. Okay, I even thought, but I don't think I'm going to go there because we probably will block things up. But I thought I would tell you about Scholastic News Magazine. Basically, we don't get one every week. It sometimes is every other week. Sometimes it's 3 times a month. It depends probably on the news. They've got a calendar. But I don't always get to do it in the week it's due, because if we have other things that we need to get done. Like I said, it's a magazine. It does take quite a bit for it to load. But once it loads, just so that you know, we have all the same logins. So if you go to student sign in, it's just Bernadine 4, lowercase, no spaces, Bernadine 4. I know somebody's going to want to type in there. We haven't done this one yet, so this is where I sometimes worry when I give them too much access. Some of them get ahead, and then we go to do it, and they'll be like, I already read that, I already did that. And I'll say, okay, let's see, what can we give you to do while we're all doing this? What, I just found this tonight as well. They're always adding something new. Remember I told you this Know the News game? And you can play it alone or you can play it with a partner. They love that. They have to have read, and this is hopefully encouraging them to read. And part of, I know many of you have seen the Scholastic News quiz, 10-question, multiple choice. They're a little tough. They've done the rigor thing. They are trying to make the kids read more closely. And I say to them, no, not this closely, more carefully, closely. But it is pretty cool. We watch the video together, but watch this new feature. And they don't even know this yet, because we'll get this one when we do, I believe it's next week that we'll be doing this one. We just worked in spelling. Maybe you saw it tonight, the states and the 2-letter abbreviations. We work that in social studies, we work that in English, just the postal abbreviations. Fun little interactive where now they have to go find Nebraska and tap on it. You can quiz yourself. They're going to love this. I mean, this is something that is so engaging for them. Old-fashioned way, I mean, I thought it was pretty cool that I actually laminated maps and have the dry erase markers and they could write and wipe off. I mean, at the time they thought that was cool. Anymore, that's like, really? I mean, they just stack the states, and there's some of them that really do know a lot of their states already. Typically, coming into 4th grade, we go region by region. A lot of them already know it because they've had access to these kinds of tools. Okay, I promised one more thing, and we're doing good. I want you to open your toolbox. And now, in Madison, Wisconsin, they call it Socrative. In Chicago, we're calling it Socrative. I've heard it both. But if you tap on Socrative student. Are you there? Okay, your screen's gonna look like that, and I gotta run over here, and I gotta log into my Socrative account.
Also known as Socrates, if you've ever watched Bill and Ted.
I promised the kids I would give you a little bit of work tonight. Now, don't worry, you're not gonna be graded, but you do have to type in a room number where you see that, I think it just says room
His
number.
room name.
If you can type in lowercase a, and then the number 57353, lowercase d, 7. And I'll say it again, and honestly, the kids now have this memorized. I'll say to them, what is it again? They've got it memorized. A, 57353, D7. That's always my room, so it's my little account. But I have to send you your, I don't want to call it a test, your exit ticket, because that's what it's called here. I'm going to send it to your LearnPad, and all you have to do, I think it's telling you when it comes, it tells you wait for the teacher, and then it gives you to type in your name. If you wouldn't mind, it's going to ask you 3 questions about what you learned tonight, what you still have questions about, and something else. And once you've done that and you hit finish, you're going to see they're going to start coming into me. The kids love this. Like, oh, my name's on here. You know, wait, I can't see my name because it's way down at the bottom. Sometimes they have to black that out because they're too busy watching this and not.
So whose name did
I
you
entered
put?
my name.
Your name. This is you. This is your exit ticket. This is our nice way of saying we're wrapping up. You got about 5 minutes to do your exit ticket. And if you have any
I
questions,
still have a question.
okay, go ahead. Can you do that?
I have a question back to the, Scholastic News.
Okay.
I couldn't get to those boxes to get to the game,
On the LearnPad?
just right now.
Okay, we'll try it again. After, do this and then we'll try it again. Yeah, do your exit ticket. Don't
So
exit.
Stephanie told go,
Where's the typing? Where's the typing?
Maybe that was the, they would have like a typing app.
Mrs. DeVito, would you like to address that? A typing app?
Yes, the typing program that I purchased. Chrissy has tried it, we can't get that app, the Learn app. I think she sent me 18 different, I'm gonna put them together,
Okay.
and I will send them home. And
Okay.
there are all other apps that you can then put on, and I'll talk
We'll
with,
put it in a
pick, yes.
category,
Right.
and we'll have that category on our
and we'll
lesson
pick a
page.
couple.
Unless we decide to put it on their toolbox, then it'll always be available.
Yeah.
And honestly, they have surprised me. We need to talk, cause we need to set up a little, like, how to sit better when we're doing all this. But, they've surprised me with their typing skills. I've actually had my class hand in their paragraph writing, Chrissy, I have them all hand in. And I printed them all out because I wanted to actually have them for their practice. But it was amazing to me how they typed. We have some issues with spacing, but that's okay.
We need Mike to start typing his handwriting is not
You know, that's.
And mine's so bad too, I can't lecture him on him, I'm like, keyboard is I'm not gonna be a hypocrite.
What is the teacher's question?
I don't know what's.
Oh, and then there's a teacher's question, I forgot that one. Oh gosh, what's our question? So the first one was, what did you learn tonight? Do you have any other questions?
what did you learn today?
And maybe the third one could just be any other suggestions you have, like is it not just questions, but suggestions you have for us. I know we talked about trying to schedule, our parent physical therapist and just helping the kids and helping us to make sure that they're sitting correctly and not always sitting in the same position, you know, moving around a little bit so that we don't end up with, I had a frozen shoulder when I did my master's degree, cause I'm sure I was sitting like all the time tense. But different things that you can think of that you'd like to make a suggestion, that's a good place for it.
Oh, for paving strategic question?
Yeah.
Type in a suggestion.
No, everybody else is. But you know what, there is, I mean, Yeah, that's what it is. And you have to be a certain distance, and you cannot click that when it's, yeah. And do you know where else you can look? I'm like, yeah, the homework is I haven't been taking pictures.
She doesn't have an autocorrect.
So I just type it in, but.
For now 8 years, I
Yeah, it is.
haven't gone into anybody's page with the keyboard. So I thought Lord had help you.
I gotta show you that.
Yes, you gotta go.
And then you're missing like all our social studies.
Right. Well, nobody said that at parent night. Everybody was so focused on the words. I never heard a word, and then I left one a couple times throughout the night, I'm like, clearly I'm not focused. You know, like, I'm like, oh.
Okay, parents, this is a bonus, cause this has nothing to do with LearnPad, but with our CJD webpage, you know, now that it's up and running, we really have spent some time putting things on there, we want you to get on there, so you have a sign-in for your family for Edline. I'm gonna quick sign in on mine and show you what you're missing.
I don't know, I wouldn't.
Now, this is just me, so you won't see Mrs. Medalli's homeroom page, but here's the homeroom page. And so you click on homework, and every single morning while your kids are busy taking their pictures now, I am typing in the homework, so it's there, unless I'm absent or unless I forget, and then you can always shoot me an email, you forgot. And then each one of our subject areas, so homework news is all about the LearnPad. Your LearnPad warranty information is all connected here. These are all things. And the social studies textbook that's online on the LearnPad, there's a link to that here too. It says Edmodo it says Social Studies Online Text. That's a motto for social studies. So this is that Pearson Success Net. You get on Edline, you've got all kinds of connections. Okay, now I'm going to take you back and I'm going to show you science so you can see what I won't see science on mine because I've got all, it's only the ones I've built. Sorry.
What are you clicking on to get that?
So this
brown
is
screen right there.
Edline. This is
Edline, my Edline.
You log in,
Up on
over
top.
again, and
You
you have
log
my
in.
Edline. And then here's the social studies and all the different things. So I can't show you science, I have to have this reality. But moms and dads, these are the review summaries for the social studies that we already did for government. And if you click on there, why didn't we know this in August? You know what?
It wasn't
I
on.
honestly thought that you were on Edline all the time. We've had Edline for so many years.
3 years.
This is the first.
Our Wi-Fi is fine.